I'll just be talking about nutrition and cardiovascular health. So, okay. Who eats what and why? Dietary intake and nutrition, definitely varies by demographic characteristics. Nutritional needs are different for different people. They range from vary from person to person, vary with regard to age and sex, with regard to place. The nutritional intake, they vary by preferences, and very importantly, they vary by access and availability. When nutritional intake does not meet nutritional needs and poses a risk for the development of cardiovascular disease, it definitely becomes a disparity. So there are some socio-demographic disparities in health behaviors. Socio-demographic patterns of behavioral risk factors for cardiovascular disease extend to dietary intake and nutrition. So people have at different levels. They may have individual level vulnerabilities and neighborhood or state level vulnerabilities. Individual levels pertaining to lower income, lower educational attainment, socially disenfranchised, racial and ethnic minority groups, physical or intellectual disabilities, and at state level, we all know geographical access to food, geopolitical factors, and economic factors. So this was published in Circulation, in this Life's Essential 8 and Cardiovascular Health, that 8 things we need to take care of for our health behaviors and for our health factors. Behaviors, they pertain to us, what we do, like more importantly, number one, exercise, number two, our diet, food, number three, sleep, and number four, to quit smoking and other types of addiction. And health factors which we need to keep a check on are the blood pressure, blood glucose, the lipid or cholesterol level, and our weight. So healthy diet is comprised of healthy whole grains, vegetables and fruits, lean protein, nuts and seeds, low fat dairy, and lower sodium. So this was published, that how much is the adherence to healthy diet in Life's Essential 8 in adults. It was published in Circulation in 2022, and among all other factors, sleep, activity, nicotine, diet had the lowest prevalence of good scores. That means dietary factors are very, very bad in most of the people's lives, including ours. And I would rather say especially ours, because we most of the times don't take care of our diet and healthy eating habits. So then this was published in Nature Food, Global Dietary Quality in 185 countries. For around 28 years, they saw that overall they had checked DASH diet score and alternative healthy eating index score. So what they saw, that men report poorer dietary quality around the world, and disparities by sex are the widest in high income countries. They in their study have seen that diets are most favorable in South Asia, but as far as if we see our Indian culture, I may not agree completely with it. And I just want to add a note here that the data from India was very scarce in this. It is a very huge study, but data from India was very scarce. So dietary quality is poorer in urban areas worldwide, and there are some opposite trends in Central Asia and Eastern Europe. Then, as far as DASH diet score was concerned, what they saw is that Southeast Asia and Southern Asia, in our countries, the intake of sugar sweetened beverages was very high, and significantly high was the processed meat and red meat. The intake was very high. So why do we see these disparities in nutrition? So there may be various different factors. That is healthy food affordable? What is the education access and what is the quality of education? What is the healthcare access and quality? What's the neighborhood and built environment? And at last, social and community context matters a lot. And they determine our food intake, our food habits. Then, so where can an intervention have the greatest impact? So once we see at an individual level, if we see, the counseling and education has the highest level of impact at an individual level. And at population level, definitely socio-economic factors matter a lot. So if we see individual level, because we deal with patients, we deal with individuals, counseling and education and clinical interventions, they have a very, very good impact on individuals. So we can help, we can counsel, and we can educate ourselves as well as our patients, because we ourselves need at least awareness and at least a reminder for healthy eating habits and healthy lifestyle. So we can counsel and educate them properly so as to improve their dietary habits. So strategy to improve equitable access to health foods will include education and awareness campaigns, nutrition labeling, promotion of healthy eating environments, subsidies and taxes. Definitely that's not up to us. Community programs, at least at smaller levels, we may be able to arrange regulatory measures, not at individual level, but at societal level. Collaborations with the food industry and individual level behavioral intervention. And this one is definitely pertaining to us as clinicians. We can change the behavioral patterns of our patients by suggestion, by counseling. So a word about Mediterranean diet, because this has been considered as a healthy nutrition and which has been practiced for centuries. As my friend just said, he talked about what has been our traditional our habits and what has been taught in our traditional studies or traditional literature. It still holds definitely true, and it still holds its ground. And same way the Mediterranean diet has been seen. It actually developed from the Mediterranean area, countries around the Mediterranean area. It actually developed from those. But if we see the basic roots of it, it was actually based on the traditional food intake and the drinks intake of the countries. They saw our around Mediterranean Sea. But if we see our cultural history, we will see almost the similar trends. There is not very significant difference. And this Mediterranean diet has been associated with low risk of all-cause mortality, cardiovascular disease, and some types of cancers also. The origins of Mediterranean diet, they are definitely they're lost in time. But if we see that it was actually seen in our ancient traditions, the diet which was taken by people who were simple of our ancient ancestry, that actually consists of most of the things in this Mediterranean diet. The first evidence was in 1960s by Ansel Keys. He did a very large 7-country study, and then followed for a very long time. And they had seen the very definite benefits of Mediterranean diet. So we have some good level of evidence for this Mediterranean type of diet, and it's a robust evidence. There's a meta-analysis which was found for a greater adherence to the Mediterranean diet and the reduced risk of overall mortality, cardiovascular diseases, coronary heart disease, myocardial infarction, overall cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, and diabetes. So in 2022, there was a study published which showed that if a person adheres to Mediterranean diet, it not only just has health benefits like it decreases the morbidity and the disease state, but it definitely can lead to increased longevity. So an increased life expectancy of around 10 years, 10 to 13 years has been seen, that if a person starts following Mediterranean diet from the age of around 20, and even at the age of 60, what they saw was that adhering to this type of simple diet, it increased the longevity by around 8 years. So the improvement is attributed to antioxidants, phytochemicals, omega-3 fatty acids, and fiber, which work together to improve health and reduce disease risk. This was by Dan Buettner. He actually this Blue Zones. It started as a documentary at a National Geographic documentation, but ultimately it developed into a full-fledged study. So they saw the 5 places in the world which have the highest longevity, and where most of the people live till the age of 100 or beyond. In Japan, Okinawa, Italy, in Nicoya, Costa Rica, Greece, and Loma Linda. They saw these, and then they interviewed the centenarians of these places. And what they found was that it was a very simple, that They used to move naturally, make your home, community, or workplace your natural way to move. Focus on activities you love, especially gardening, walking, playing with your family. Right outlook, know and be able to articulate your sense of purpose, and ensure your day is punctuated with periods of calm. Eat wisely. Instead of groping from fad diet to fad diet, use time-honored strategies for eating 20% less at meals and avoid processed food and belong to the right people. That means surround yourself with right people, and that will definitely change your life. So they didn't actually count calories, they celebrated their food. So we also need to follow these simple practices. So they had some food guidelines. I'll not go because the time is very less. In addition to these macronutrients, there are micronutrients also which have profound impact on cardiovascular disease. Minerals like zinc, copper, calcium, and magnesium, they are linked to their deficiencies are linked to high blood pressure. Antioxidants, vitamin C and E help blood vessels for flexibility. Antioxidants, lipoic acid, reduced blood pressure by inhibiting inflammatory responses in blood vessels. Many micronutrients prevent arterial scarring like B12, B6, folate, serine, choline. Some help in keeping the heart muscles strong like carnitine, thiamine. They also reduce oxidative stress like glutathione and all. They have been seen to prevent strokes. In addition, many micronutrients have been found to have some preventive effect in atherosclerosis and preventing plaque within the arteries. So the this is the place where the problem lies. How much is our adherence to this type of diet? The issue is we know what's right, but how much do we adhere to it? That's the point. So observational studies report they show that the current level of adherence to Mediterranean diet is moderate and has globally declined in the last decade. So this was a study published which has seen the adherence for last 40 years, 1980 to 2020. And if you can see in the last decade, 2010 to 2020, in that decade, there's a progressive and significant and gradual decline in the adherence to Mediterranean diet. We are now more focused and towards rich calorie rich fast foods, which have very high amount of trans fatty acids, very high amount of those types of food which will increase our cholesterol and which will have bad impact on our health. So this is by country wise. So what are the barriers? There was a study published in 2022 which have seen some barriers, and then some tips are suggested that they saw that factors influencing adoption and adherence to a MAD diet were financial, cognitive, socio-cultural, lifestyle, motivational, accessibility and availability, sensory and hedonic, and demographic. So there are some practical tips which I can say that wrong beliefs regarding a healthy diet are that it has a bad taste and high cost. These were reported by some people in a study, and they are expensive. But there's a study published in Lancet which shows that actually the healthy diet is in absolute terms, it's actually a cheaper one. It may be unaffordable for some, but in actual terms, if we see in relative terms, it may be a bit costly at that time, but in actual terms, it's actually cheap. Uh, so what additional things can be some tips that we can buy once the things are at their promotional cost or at their best cost. And the very important is that cook your own food. The higher dietary quality with increased number of meals, it was published in American Journal of Preventive Medicine in 2017, that the more the number of times we cook our own food or take our home meals, there is increased the quality of food as per as nutrition is much better compared to once we take outside. And very importantly, on the other hand, it also decreases the cost. So we can increase the dairy and eggs intake and reduce red meat. And very importantly, we need to reduce ultra processed food. So a healthy diet can be achieved at a low cost by some tips which are I have already given. So there's a study published in Lancet which has seen that it may actually several million deaths, over 100 million daily adjusted life years are lost actually due to unhealthy diet. So it may be considered as, at least if not this, but it may be contributing to the number one killer in the world. So I will end my presentation by this. This is a 2021 EAC guidelines on cardiovascular disease and prevention in clinical practice. There are some recommendations regarding nutrition. A healthy diet is recommended as a cornerstone of cardiovascular disease prevention in all individuals. It is recommended to adopt a Mediterranean or similar diet to lower risk of cardiovascular disease. It's recommended to replace saturated with unsaturated fats to lower the risk of cardiovascular disease. It's recommended to reduce salt intake to lower BP and risk of cardiovascular disease. It's recommended to choose a more plant-based food pattern rich in fiber that includes whole grains, fruits, vegetables, pulses, and nuts. It's recommended to restrict alcohol consumption to a maximum of 100 grams per week. It's recommended to eat fish, preferably fatty fish, at least once a week, and restrict processed meat. It's recommended to restrict free sugar consumption, in particular sugar sweetened beverages, to a maximum of 10% of energy intake. And I just would add a bit in this time when the puja festivities are going around, try to restrict your sugar intake. Please decrease the amount of mishti you take. Thank you very much.